Hey guys, it's Jaeger262 and welcome back to the channel. Now, like I said in the World of Tanks video I uploaded, which probably you model guys won't watch or anything, I've been on a hiatus. It's been about 2 weeks. I've had a couple of issues with recording and doing stuff like that, but I am making videos again, and today I wanted to just do a very small video, just one to get back into doing them and put out videos for all three things that I do: models, World of Tanks, Armored Warfare, that kind of stuff. So this would be that one, and I'm going to do a Warhammer video. As you know, it was Warhammer Day last Saturday, or maybe 2 Saturdays ago. No, last Saturday for sure. Anyway, not important. But I have recently got back into building Warhammer stuff and taking some time from doing Gunpla. I'm kind of burnt out with Gunpla right now. I was doing a build off and it was a mess. It was a mess. So I started painting these, and I am in love with the Age of Sigmar miniatures. I think they're so interesting. Both miniatures you see before you are Age of Sigmar. That's a Khorne Blood Warrior, and that is a Lord of Plagues. And I just love how they look. And so I was using them to test some stuff. And for the Khorne Blood Warrior, I tested the infamous, well, maybe not infamous, a lot of people love them, a lot of people hate them. It just depends on how you paint. But I was testing out Citadel's new contrast paints, and so I had already done one Blood Warrior before this one to pretty bad results. There's a learning curve, but I'm actually really impressed with how this Blood Warrior came out. So the way I did this is, as you can see, the whole miniature was painted, if I can get it to focus, there we go, with Alclad Chrome. So gloss black primer, then chrome, and then over the chrome I painted just one layer, sometimes two in a few places, but really only one, just like advertised, of the, I forget, Flesh Terror Red from the contrast paint range. So it's a bit of a darker, fuller red. And I'm actually really impressed with the metallic look of this miniature. Again, if I could just get it to focus. No, come on. There we go. And I actually really love how it came out. So there's still a lot of work to do. I won't be painting him in this video. I just wanted to throw that out there, that I heard a lot of people talking about it on forums, and then I actually met some guys at my local hobby store who were doing a build, well, not really a build night, but more just like a hobby night for Warhammer. And one of the guys was using contrast paint to make some really nice metallic colors. And so I decided to see if I could get an interesting metallic red that's not candy red out of contrast paints. And I think it's a great look on this guy. I absolutely love it. But that's not actually what this video is going to be about. So the rest of this video, again, it's going to be pretty short, so I'm trying not to record too long. I'm just going to do the first step in my Lord of Plagues paint job. He is primed in a light gray, almost off-white primer. And so what I'm going to do is paint him using washes. And the reason I'm making a video about this, even though it's a simple technique, is not really a tutorial. It's just to address some stuff I was hearing other people talk about or reached out to me about. Weathering or washes, how big of a role do things like oils and washes play? Isn't painting just straight up the most important part? Painting pieces apart. What I mean by that is, like, when I do Gunpla, I build all the armor pieces after I paint them, and for Warhammer I usually paint these figures unassembled, so I can get all the little details in, but it depends on the miniature. That's what I wanted to get into. For example, my Lord of Plagues, I put the whole miniature together, and I put the whole Khorne Blood Warrior together before I painted them, just so I could get a smoother finish with the airbrush, and it works out fine. You don't have to take them apart to paint them, even though it does help some places. It's way easier to build a model and then paint it, at least in my opinion, than painting it and then building it, because then you can't fix any seam lines or get really tight fits or anything once it's painted and you build it, because if there's a gap or something in the model, you're going to have to strip all that paint when you fix it and then repaint it anyway. It's just double work. And the second thing, well, that was just my like PSA to that argument is that you can really do it any way you want. I use both methods. I personally just pick and choose what miniatures to use them on. In the actual conversation I was having, it wasn't about Warhammer figures, it was actually about armor models, which is not something I show too much on this channel, but I also build my armor models completely out of the box first, then paint them. The second thing was weathering. Using washes and oils and thin paints to get a lot, and that's what I do. I'm a heavy post-effects, heavy weathering kind of modeler, and so all my strengths and all the things I do to tie a figure together come from that process, not from base coating and getting all the base colors right. And so again, you can do either or, but for this video, at least for this miniature, I actually will mostly paint with oils and washes. That's why I did my Poxwalkers, and that's so I decided to try him out. He's one of my favorite miniature designs, by the way, so I was just really happy to pick him up. I picked him up on Warhammer Day as well, and just love all the little details on him. But for the first step, instead of doing a base coat of flesh or something, that's why if you're building this and you want to do it this way, I recommend going with either white or ghost gray. I choose ghost gray because white's a little bit too stark in my opinion. And then what I'm going to do is actually the base color for this is going to be a wash, not a paint. So that's kind of the idea here. Excuse me, just have to get some water. I usually don't thin my washes, but for something like this you don't want it too thick, and I've been noticing that I use the Vallejo mech line of washes for this kind of stuff, that they do tend to get a little bit thicker as time goes by, which is, you know, like all paints, they start to dry out or get thick. So I just thin it out with some water, nothing too crazy. And the reason I'm using a rust color is because I don't really want the sepia look. I do want it to be a little bit orange or a deeper red, just because. Yeah, we're just gonna take this and then try not to let it pull too much like an actual wash. This is more like, well, it's not like, this is exactly, if you do armor modeling, if you're used to that, you'll know what filters are, where it's basically the same thing as you take the same materials as washes or oils, but you apply them to the entire miniature very thin, which is what we're doing here. We do want it to pull in these recesses like you see now, but we don't want it to pull so much that it looks like a wash. We just want it to be a very, very light thing to pick out some details like that vein right there. And this is how I base coat my, oh man, what are these? I don't actually build Age of Sigmar too much, so I know these are Maggotkin of Nurgle, but my Poxwalkers and other models that are, you know, still Nurgle, but from Warhammer, that's how I base these, is how I paint those. But it's all grandfather Nurgle, so I suppose it's, you know, you don't have to pick and choose. It's just how I paint my Nurgle skin tone. And there will be more videos on this. I will be showing you how to pick out some of this detail again, because obviously we don't want it to be too warm. So I have actually light flesh from Vallejo, which is a nice salmon color, but not thick. It's a very thin paint, almost a glaze. And I'm going to mix that with their off-white, which is also just, it's not a glaze like that one, it's more just because it's white, it's thin. All white colors are kind of thin. And what I'm going to do is mix it about 50-50 and then apply highlights. Sort of like a dry brush, to pick out some of these details and not make it look like he's still well alive, but we want it to look a little bit decayed. Well, let's see if I can get this closer to the camera. There we go. And I moved it. But he does look decaying now. That's kind of the point of doing this, is that we want it to be a very subtle kind of look, very warm gray instead of a skin tone. And that's my own, like I was saying, it all depends on how you want to paint. To the people who I was discussing making the argument for it, if you wanted to paint this skin tone and then go back and try and make it look more decayed, you could do that. It's your prerogative. I just choose to go this route with it, just because it's a little bit easier. And again, to emphasize that I did not have to assemble this miniature after painting it to get all this detail hit. I keep moving it out of the camera. I'm sorry, I'm not used to having a camera directly in front of me. As you know, you've seen a lot of my videos are like at weird angles. I'm still getting used to this, so please bear with me. And just get some of that. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. And so it looks like flesh. It's got a nice light flesh tone to it. And again, we're going to pick out some of those details later. But that is exactly the look I wanted. And it pooled in those recesses nicely. Again, I said I didn't really want it in all of them, because that's going to be a separate part of this series on this guy and how to paint those. But yeah, looking good. You can really achieve a lot of effective detail work, coverage, base painting, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to achieve with washes or oil paints. And so it works out. I'm really happy with this result. I might go over it and touch up some things like this hole here and just put more paint in there. But other than that, that is step 1 to my Lord of Plagues video series. And already we're off to a great start, I think. So thank you so much for watching. I'm going to finish the Khorne Blood Warrior first, and then I'll be recording what I do with, oh, out of focus. There we go. I'll be doing the rest of the video series on the Lord of Plagues. So if you want to get notified when that happens, or if you're interested in Age of Sigmar or Warhammer in general and just want to see me paint these miniatures just because you think they look cool, please subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, get notified. And as always, please give this video a thumbs up. I appreciate the likes. It goes a long way to helping me create more videos and just show your support for the channel. It lets me know that you guys are interested in miniature videos still, or at least Warhammer miniature videos. So, always appreciate that. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.